Hey folks, my name is Mo Amir and this is VANCOLOUR, British Columbia's bona fide culture and politics TV talk show. Tonight we're focused on people demanding money from you, both legally and illegally. Last week, Scotiabank was ordered to pay $34,000 after contacting a consumer over 100 times to collect a debt. Are debt collectors getting more aggressive? And if you're being chased to pay a debt, what exactly are your rights in BC? But first, we need to talk about the escalating wave of extortion across the province. Surrey alone has reported over 100 extortion cases. The threats demanding money, which now include brazen shootings, have primarily targeted business owners in the Punjabi South Asian community. And now, even lawyers are being targeted. To explain what's happening and what it means for our communities, we're joined by the author of Willful Blindness: How a Network of Narcos, Tycoons, and CCP Agents Infiltrated the West. He's an investigative journalist and the founder of The Bureau, Sam Cooper. Sam, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Great to be with you, Mo.
For people who have only seen the headlines about extortion in Surrey and the Fraser Valley, what is happening right now, and what does this crime wave look like on the ground?
Well, I started hearing from police sources in Western Canada, so that's Alberta and British Columbia, over the past year, that these strange threat messages that have been going out in the South Asian community to a lot of business owners, some wealthy families, they were getting WhatsApp messages, some of them from India, basically pay protection money or we'll shoot up your shop or your house. And then we started seeing exactly that. Dozens of these cases reported. And so, as you say, now we're at the point where the BC Law Society sent out alert to its members saying there are these threat letters going out to lawyers in British Columbia demanding big money, warning violence. And so if you're a lawyer, you should report this to the police. And there's now an extortion task force. So in a nutshell, it's gone from a lot of reports within the community, within the diaspora, that this was happening, to our federal government acknowledging it, and BC lawyers. I say that's showing that it's getting right to the core of our legal and political system.
And we'll get to the lawyers in a second, but this isn't just local gang violence, right? As you kind of alluded to, it involves these transnational criminal networks. Who are these groups, and why is BC specifically being targeted?
Well, British Columbia is targeted apparently because the Indian government, allegedly through diplomats and intelligence agents, has tasked some of the most serious Indian transnational crime operators, both in jail in India and operating in Canada, to target members from the Sikh diaspora. So it does really seem to stem from sort of a geopolitical battle within India, where you have different communities vying for control of certain territory. And then there's a network called the Lawrence Bishnoi Network in Canada. Ottawa has designated that gang, run by a criminal in an Indian prison who allegedly is tasked by Indian intelligence agencies to destabilize Canada's diaspora community with these threats. So that's showing you that the tentacles allegedly tied to the Indian government. They deny this very strongly. But British Columbia, to your question, it's become a hub for both the diaspora community from South Asia and for a lot of transnational crime networks, whether they be from India, Chinese networks, Mexican cartels, Middle Eastern networks. You have a lot of organized crime and a lot of money in BC sort of vying for power, both political and criminal. And I think that's what's come together in this alarming story of BC lawyers being targeted.
Wow. Now, so when we talk about all these transnational gangs from all over the world, we now have this situation, as you mentioned earlier, that we have lawyers receiving extortion threats. And you've argued that this is basically hollowing out Canadian sovereignty. Can you explain that and what it means when criminal networks feel bold enough to threaten people inside the justice system?
Yeah, this is a theme and a theory and a concept that I raised in the update of my book, Willful Blindness. Mo, as you know, we've talked about how my book revealed the Vancouver model of transnational crime, shows how international gangs are laundering massive amounts of funds in Vancouver. But I argued that this form of organized crime also relates to election interference. It relates to the so-called Chinese police stations where you have operatives of foreign governments allegedly working with organized crime to target the Chinese diaspora. And this is another side of it, allegedly India or foreign powers using organized crime to target the Sikh diaspora. And so I say, when you have officers of the court targeted by threats by what looks like a terror designated foreign gang, and the community is saying, we feel that Canadian police can't do anything about this. We feel powerless. So that's why I say that that's sort of a state hollowing state of affairs where there's a lack of trust that our local police can handle these foreign powerful gangs that may be connected to foreign governments. And so you start to feel that these gangs become the police within our diaspora communities rather than the RCMP.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like this situation has gotten worse and worse when it comes to international gangs operating within our borders, specifically BC. I mean, you mentioned Latin America, China, obviously India now. It just feels like police and security agents in our country don't have the right resources to fight this. Is that a fair assessment?
That's absolutely a fair assessment, Mo. I have, at this point, as a subject expert from the journalism field, I'm asked to give my view and findings to North American law enforcement, not just in Canada. I'm asked to talk to government entities in and around Ottawa and Washington. And I always say that in Canada, we lack modern racketeering laws of the type that the American government used to tackle some of their serious transnational crime in New York decades ago. They're called RICO laws. And it allows a government, when it's really becoming overpowered by organized crime that's getting into all kinds of corrupt activities, it allows, as I say, it allows our government and police to hit those gangs with a hammer. Let's not mince words, because when you have, I say, politicians, lawyers, community leaders in the diaspora targeted by allegedly foreign directed organized crime, it's not a small matter anymore.
So basically what I'm hearing is our federal government, at least, is to blame, because they could strengthen certain laws, as you mentioned, bring in some sort of RICO law regime to help policing and intelligence agents, curb this wave of organized crime, whether it's the extortion that we're seeing from these Indian gangs or crime from other gangs. It's why hasn't the government moved on this? Because, clearly this has been happening for years and we haven't seen much action.
Mo, that's a great question. And again, this is a question that I do discuss with government entities in and around Washington and Ottawa. And the concerns are, I hate to put it this way, but there's not been enough political will in Ottawa to put forward modern tools to combat foreign interference and organized crime. And it's not just myself saying it. Thomas Creek, he's the head of the OPP, Ontario Police, and the Association of Canadian Police Chiefs. He was in a Canadian press story a month ago about saying, look, police have been asking Ottawa for modern laws to tackle increasingly lethal international organized crime for 2 decades now, and we haven't really seen anything. The most serious, step would be designating this Bishnoi gang as terrorists. Mo, as you know, our government has agreed with Washington to designate Mexican cartels as terror entities, but that hasn't translated into real laws that work in Canadian courts to date. So I do think that this is a political problem at the end of the day, certainly in Ottawa, because that's where the buck stops in Canada. Absolutely.
Sam, I appreciate your time tonight. And you know that my dad is your biggest fan, so he says hello.
We're going to have that beer with you and your dad one of these days, Mo.
I cannot wait. Thanks so much, Sam.
Thank you.
Folks, you can find his reporting at The Bureau. And make sure you pick up his extraordinary book, Willful Blindness. He is Sam Cooper. Now, after some business, Canada has the highest household debt to GDP ratio among the 10 largest economies in the world, which means big business for debt collectors. So if someone is chasing you for money, what are your rights in British Columbia? We'll talk about it up next.